Well, we knew it was going to happen. The glorious double promotion side is gradually leaving us, and one of the biggest figures will be leaving Ipswich Town. The captain, Sam Morsy, is on his way. Here is our reaction. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. It's a bit weird, this one, Rich, because I hadn't kind of mapped out who was going to leave at what point. And then it kind of dawned on me, this actually makes a lot of sense for this to be happening now. But Sam Morsy was the captain. What's your immediate reaction? Get your Morsy memories in the chat, everybody, and we'll go through the career in a bit. But what's your first reaction, Rich? Welcome.
I think sadness, Ben. I think, to your point, I can kind of understand it. I guess, do we need to caveat that it's not a done deal just yet, but it's all but. I mean, we did a transfer reaction. You guys did a transfer reaction last week, and we kind of wink, nudge, knew that was kind of over the line. And it feels like this is kind of definite, all but for the paperwork. And yeah, sadness, Ben, I think, because you're right. I think it's sad that there's kind of an era ending, but I think there was always going to be a point when a 34-year-old central midfielder we needed to kind of go beyond that. But I think all of us have been speculating about, squad depth. I did a bit with Gab Sutton last week, and all of us thought, well, you need Morsy in the squad. You need Morsy for setting that example, for being, that the captain on and off the field. And I think in that aspect, Ben, probably that's the biggest miss, and that's the biggest sadness, really, is that, big character, big leader. And I think we kind of lack that at the moment. And that's probably, apart from sadness, a little bit of anxiousness about, the succession planning on leadership, really. But yeah, sad day.
Yeah, Joe, that's going to be the intangibles, I think, rather than on the pitch, are what you might have been keeping him for this season. What's your initial reaction to the news today?
Devastating blow, I find. It's just a real tough one to take, because firstly, you're just losing a guy who's been such a brilliant player for us, helped us create brilliant memories, and has been a standard set, has been the captain, has been the leader, has helped us get over the line twice. And sort of secondly, I don't think it's the right move for the club when like I say, we've done all these podcasts talking about the depth of midfield, and we're saying, look, we've got Morsy, Taylor and Humphreys. That's all we've got. We need at least two more in there. Well, we signed one, and now we're losing one. And so we're still, like, if you just look at it purely from an Ipswich Town point of view, you've got Matusua now as Sam Morsy's replacement. But I'd have liked to have seen Sam Morsy there alongside him for the season, trying to pick up 10 or so games while he settles into English football and season keeps a pace. See if there's a right move for him. But it just, I don't know. It feels like we've done the right thing by Sam, but maybe not the right thing for Ipswich Town. And I'm more, without being mean, I care more about Ipswich Town than I do about Sam Morsy.
There you go. Keep these brilliant Morsy memories in the chat coming, guys. Rich, where do you stand on the tension between the emotional versus the football? Because the emotional, you keep him 100 times out of 100. He's the captain. You have a great season, and he rides off into the sunset with a third promotion as Ipswich Town captain, and we clear the decks with another 100 million quid's worth of Premier League TV money. But on the football side, where are you with that tension?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be the more. I'll let Joe kind of toe the line on the kind of the emotional side, because from a succession planning perspective, football is no different to any other kind of job, isn't it? There's a point where the interest of the company, the employer, and the staff member kind of diverge. And Sam Morsy didn't play every single game last season, and in the Premier League had some good days, but also had some challenging days too. And that would have been playing on people's minds in terms of recruitment. And I think Joe's right, though. I think we've got Matassewa, who is going to be quite fresh to this league, a bit green, and Morsy would have been a perfect kind of mentor for him getting up to speed with the Championship. And so I think in that respect, I agree with Joe that I think that maybe is something where we've maybe not thought too far ahead in terms of what Matassewa needs to get up to speed. But in terms of he was never going to play 46 games, Ben. I think I keep coming back to that. That's my opinion. Others may think differently on that one. And in that respect, and if Morsy knows that as well, then it might be that he's initiated this situation, and therefore you kind of all shake hands and go, yeah, brilliant. It's been like an amazing time in our history, but there's a point where everyone has to move on, and it kind of feels like maybe it is this moment, but time will tell.
Following on from what Rich said, Joe, Ferguson, the GOAT, Sir Alex used to get plaudits for, you'd keep Ryan Giggs just there, and he's not going to play 46 games. Well, Ryan Giggs never going to play in the Championship, but he's not going to play 38 games, but he's there. Or is that just a false equivalence, kind of given where we are now in 2025, and that Manchester United under Ferguson were like the most stable club in world football, and we're yo-yoing essentially between Championship and Premier League?
Yeah, for me, it's just that he's got 1 year left on his contract, and he's 4 in September, 33. We're not getting any transfer fee for him. I know it's a high wage earner to get off the books, but I just think we'll actually just let him run his contract down. He signed the contract, let him have it, because he signed a contract when he signed for us after the first promotion. He signed another contract that didn't even extend it just to get himself a better deal. Fair enough to him. Last year, in between seasons, he signed a new contract, which I don't think he extended it. He's managed to get himself a new contract every summer. And this season, I imagine he's tried to get himself another new contract to try and get more than 1 year left on it. And it doesn't suit us for him to have more than 1 year on it. So it's a case that he's going to go, where it just seems, I don't know, it just seems a bit careless for us. We're already worried about the central midfield situation next year, and where are you going to find someone as good as Sam Morsy to be effectively a backup, or hopefully a backup player for Matasiwa? How are you going to buy someone for that role, or find someone for that role this summer? And with everything else that Sam Morsy brings with regards to his leadership, his qualities, and just knowing that he is who he is and what he is, how do you find that effectively? I don't know. I guess maybe there's consideration, and like I said, this isn't on any knowledge, it's just me speculating, but maybe it might be seen that if he's not in the team every week, he might not be the best influence around the place. But that might be a few. I don't know. Who knows on that one? Kieran McKenna, I guess. But the fact we're not getting any fee,
too big a character to not be.
Yeah, to not be playing.
Not be pitch,
but that's total speculation, not even speculating, just throwing it out there as a potential viewpoint, not even my viewpoint on it. So maybe something along those lines. I don't know, but it does just seem. So you look at that depth in that midfield now, and at the moment we've got Matasiwa, Jack Taylor, and Cameron Humphreys. That's all we've got in central midfield at the moment. Finn Barbrook, who was on loan in the National League at Sutton, did very well there, but he was on loan at the National League last year, and he's currently, I guess, if we're playing a friendly on Saturday, he's there. And if you, like I say, the comment there from Craig about letting
I was not into that,
before the decline sets in.
Oh, he was the master at that, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think the decline is setting in for Sam. He's so fit.
Okay.
He looks even leaner than what he was. Yeah, he's not going to be a player for us in the Premier League if we're hopefully there in 26, 27, but we've got to get there first.
Yeah, Rich, lots to talk about Alex Ferguson, and I'm kind of thinking about, I was going to mention Pep Guardiola now in terms of Professor Kieran McKenna, but sometimes managers, they have to send a message to the squad and the fan base and the playing staff, don't they? Of right, this is Kieran McKenna team 2.0 now, and we're going to do it without Sam Morsy. And I always remember, who was it? Pep. Was it Joe Hart was the keeper there? And like he immediately, and he was like the England keeper, and he'd won the title there, and he'd come from Shrewsbury and been there for years before. And it was almost half about what it did on the pitch, but it was also half about, right, here I am, this is what we're doing, and here's a signal to everybody. Is there any sense of that, do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the squad needs a rocket or or maybe they do. Yeah, this is the trouble, Ben. We're kind of speculating from the outside. Let's not pretend.
It's our job, Rich.
Yeah, well, so let me speculate then, because last season, I think all of us have, I'm sorry for dragging us back there. And I think all of us have maybe done a good job of kind of compartmentalizing the latter end of last season in a way in the back of our minds. But it was pretty bleak, wasn't it? And I do wonder whether, we talked about the psychology around coming back from that relegation and kind of losing every week. And I wonder whether McKenna has thought that maybe there's a little bit of a reset or a reboot is needed. And I'm not saying that Sam Morsy is the cause for the latter half of last season, of course not. But there is inevitability about his departure. And I think maybe if you could do something that is a kind of a psychological kind of line in the sand, and kind of, again, we've kind of talked about Cam Burgess, Mas Luongo. Maybe it is a case of just, it's a refresh, it's a reboot, it's a reset. And it just happens to be quite a painful, emotional thing.
Is impossible. That got blown out of the water when you do the double promotion. It can't be a slow burn as soon as you go bang, bang, League One, Championship, Premier League. That just rewrote the strategy, didn't it?
And the other aspect that we need to remember as well is that it might not be that Kieran McKenna is part, he's obviously going to be consulted, but our owners and our chief exec / chairman is wildly ambitious, will not shy away from making really tough calls, which is exactly what this is. And I think we are making kind of judgments based on what we know here and now. I guess the real quiz is the 8th of August or whatever it is, and how the season pans out. Really, we can only, to Joe's point, squad depth not great, is it? But I'd be shocked if they're not one or two midfielders now coming in, and that's the test, really, isn't it? But it's the leadership. I still can't really get my head around the leadership aspect, Ben. But to your question, every now and then you got to do a bit of sounds really harsh, doesn't it? I was going to say a spring clean. That's not what I mean, but
no, I don't.
A refresh. Yeah. And sadly, Sam Morsy is the one who's maybe been part of that activity. I don't know.
Joe, we would assume Dara O'Shea will be the captain. Do you think the contract talks might have said, oh, and by the way, with your new contract comes this armband as well?
Well, I think we've known he's next in line, haven't we? It was spoken about a lot last season, so I think we knew that he would be the guy that gets it when Sam Morsy either leaves or doesn't play as regularly. O'Shea would be the captain while Morsy wasn't on the pitch. So it's just, I guess that's part of it. But I don't know. I'm not saying Dara O'Shea is a good or a bad leader. Like, I don't think we've seen enough evidence of either of those, and he seems to have a lot of respect in the group, which is the main thing. But when you look at what was the leadership group, which we spoke about, that was Axel Tuanzebe, Cameron Burgess, Massimo Luongo, Sam Morsy, I guess Connor Chaplin, who's still here. But you're talking of the whole leadership group of a squad which achieved a double promotion, but not the... We're not talking about the relegation so much here, but a lot of the leaders in that were from last season. So we're going to need Dara O'Shea, Jacob Greaves, Sam Smodics, Connor Chaplin. These guys are going to really need to step up. Some of the new signings, whoever they end up being, they're going to really, really need to step up into these senior roles in the squad. And it's a lot of change in one summer.
Just to devil's advocate a little bit here, Ben. Sorry to butt in.
Go.
There sometimes someone can be a huge focal point and do a lot of the kind of talking, a lot of the kind of the setting the example, and that might marginalize people that actually do want to step forward and do take a leadership role. As I say, this is something that I manage people in my day job, and it's something, sometimes I need to get out of people's way to let them be successful, or I need to let people move on so that other people can find their feet and find their voice.
I call that the Norwich James Maddison paradigm. He's their best player by miles. He leaves and everybody else improves.
And you could say that either on the footballing side, and Jordan made a really good point that we kind of put up in the chat just a second ago, but from a leadership perspective, I agree with Joe that we're kind of limited in that, and we haven't really, heard too much from Dara O'Shea in terms of his philosophy and whether he's the Morsy type, which leads by example, basically, and is going to be ordering people around, because it didn't really feel like that was his way last season when he did have the armband, or whether he needs to find his voice, as I say. So I just wanted to put that out there, that maybe in terms of McKenna's thinking, that actually you need to make space for the next kind of wave of leaders in the dressing room, perhaps.
Yeah, amen. Right, let's get into and I've got foot mob up here, although we may have better numbers coming from the chat. The 165 game double promotion run of Sam Morsy for Ipswich Town. Joe, I've got to be honest. I'm never one to be wise after the event. I'm wrong on the internet quite a lot. You've proven me wrong quite a few times on the podcast as well, mate. I thought Sam Morsy was a championship hatchet man. I was really pleased when he dropped to League One. I was wrong about Paul Cook. I thought Paul Cook was too good for League One when he joined us and his level was championship. I did think that Sam Morsy was too good for League One and his level was championship, but he's gone way, way beyond what I expected from him. I thought it was a good signing and I thought it was bold at the time, without rewriting history, because there's literal recordings of what we said on the internet to hold us to account. But what were your memories when he joined in that ridiculous transfer window, Joe, in August 21?
Yeah, well, it was Paul. I remember Paul Cook talking a lot about him, didn't he, before? And it was at the stage where it's like, when Sam Morsy's here, we won't be putting him before. Or I think we signed him. He had a 3-game suspension overhanging for something at Middlesbrough just before he left.
Yeah, I remember.
And we lost the game. And Paul Cook's whole post-match presser was, when Sam Morsy's playing on the pitch, we won't be putting him before.
Isn't that your job, again. Paul? Not
yeah,
Sam Morsy's.
It's a bit like that. And to be honest, when he first got in the team, he didn't look, I wouldn't say he looked disinterested, but he didn't look very good. He was sort of skulking around the pitch a bit. He was in the team, and I thought put in one of the worst performances I've seen in an Ipswich shirt away at Charlton, that dreadful night where we had Enciala in the crowd, and he looked like he, and I'd heard he didn't want to sign for us. He didn't want to be here. He didn't want to drop down, but he was sort of pushed out of Middlesbrough, and he looked like he still felt like that for the first few months of his appearance. But then when Kieran McKenna came in, I think the first thing he did was swap the roles that Lee Evans and Sam Morsy had round. He just sort of switched them.
So Lee Evans mentioned. I love this podcast. I did not even see that coming.
And since Kieran McKenna's come in, Sam Morsy has been absolutely fantastic from week in, week out. It was in the sort of League One promotion season, it was just a case of, Connor Chaplin's player of the season because he scored 27 goals and we'll do this. But Sam Morsy is the best player on the pitch every single week by a distance. He was just a level above everyone in the league in that team. And when we went up, it was like, well, how good is he going to be in the Championship? Because he was just a better player than everyone in League One. He was just better than them. So
that was my point when he signed, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, how is that going to translate to the Championship? And I think he went to another level even on top of that in a Championship. And he got the PFA Fans Player of the Year for the Championship season. I know it's a difficult award to give out sometimes because you're looking for a player from a good team as opposed to necessarily the best player, because sometimes that can be in a weaker team. But he was our player of the season, and I thought probably for 2 seasons he was the best player on the pitch in sort of 90% of the games he played across 2 seasons, which I didn't expect when we went up to the Championship. And then I think even in the Premier League, I think that, bearing in mind Calvin Phillips came in to replace him and couldn't dislodge him from the team, bar maybe a few games in March or April where it was almost like we were just trying to give Calvin Phillips a run to see if we could just get anything out of him. But I thought Sam Morsy easily outperformed him last season. And I know there was a lot of talk about our midfield getting overrun, and it was at times. I don't think anyone would deny that. But he went in there in a 2 against every midfield, and I don't think there were games when he sometimes looked a little bit leggy at times, but towards the end of the season, I thought he finished the season really strong. And I think there's an argument that he's like I say, I think people had Jens Kajust ahead of him as for the player of the season. I'd have had Sam Morsy ahead of Jens Kajust personally, and probably had him up there again as maybe sort of up behind Liam Delap and Darrow O'Shea. I'd probably have had him as our best player last season. So it's just 3 seasons of just absolute class and quality or 3.5 seasons from when Kieran McKenna came in and got him under his wing. He looks fit, he looks lean, and you see what he's come back for pre-season looking like, really even fitter and lean. And he's 34 in September, but I don't think that's really going to hold him back. I think he's got another few years in him. So that I can see why he wants to get himself sorted for a new contract. I can see why he's managed to do that successfully in the past, but I don't think it's right for us to give him one. But I can see why the club are letting him go, and I wouldn't want him to stay anywhere else in England in the Championship. I think that would be a dangerous move for it. But I'd have liked to see him. He's linked to Kuwait SC. I sort of looked at the Kuwaiti league. It's quite a low-ranked league. I'd rather see him go to Saudi Arabia or the UAE league. One of those two, because I think he's dropping too low for what he is. He's such a good player still, and such a brilliant footballer. He's not just the hatchet man that he looked like. I know he gets a lot of yellow cards, and he takes them sometimes, but he's not. I think a lot of people just thought he was a thug when he signed for us, but he just wasn't. He was a brilliant footballer too.
I think that says a lot, Rich, about management and how players are used, and we can talk about Morsy with Paul Cook or Neil Warnock versus Morsy with Kieran McKenna, and I'm kind of using the term hatchet man a bit for the shock value, because what I ended up seeing was a deep lying playmaker with great strength on the ball, an ability to receive it in tight spaces. You couldn't get it off him when he received it. Ability to then transfer the ball onto, as Brian Clough would say, give it to the players who could play. That was the job. And was he running around kicking people in this area of the pitch? No, he's back here in this area of the pitch, making the play, fizzing the ball around. I just did not see that coming, Rich.
No, and the I was going to say the Morsy move that everyone now will remember is dropping deep to receive the ball from the keeper and being on the turn and 180 and spin, and off we go. You know that.
Using those massive plate hands to get round.
Yeah, exactly. And off he goes. You know, arms pumping, takes us up the pitch, and you know we could maybe talk about favourite Morsy goals as well, because I think that's an underestimated aspect. There's some points, some big. I'll chuck one out there. Milton Keynes Dons away in the promotion season. We're huffing and puffing. We kind of have dominance, and then suddenly MK appear and put us under pressure. And from nowhere, from 25 yards, Morsy pings one into the bottom corner. You know, you need the captain to lead by example, and we were kind of. It wasn't I don't think that was the same MK Dons as the team previously, but we were making real hard work of it. And we can talk about. We'll talk. I won't spoil all of them because I want the chat.
But it's obviously going to be Watford, but we'll let everybody have their Morsy moment.
Southampton.
Let that Leicester Boxing Day game as well, or whenever the one over Christmas in the Championship season. That deflected goal. That was a moment where we were again huffing and puffing and didn't really. Hurst is off injured, really couldn't find a way to goal, and it deflected, but. It's still the captain is the one who's taking the initiative and he's driving forwards. We could talk about the pre-assist for the Sarmiento goal as well. By the way, the ball shrugged off. I forget who he shrugged off on the halfway. Borderline foul, probably, but gets away with it. Ball over the diagonal to
Mike
Davis.
Tyson just armed him off. Yeah,
and I know you've kind of talked about he isn't the hatchet man, Ben, but I think. We needed someone like him to make. We were really naive. We used to talk about it constantly on the pod. We're always a little bit of a soft touch. And whilst Morsy evolved into this kind of box-to-box defensive holding, sitting midfielder that could spring us forward and find a goal, actually teams respected us and at times feared us because Morsy was the one who was taking us out the battle. And I wouldn't want to face up to Morsy on the pitch. And a few people tried it, and a few people may have got a little bit of rough treatment as a result of it. And I think as much as his game was much more about, the stuff we talked about, Ben, actually at the time when he came in, we needed that. We were really spineless at times and he set the tone and we benefited from it.
Yeah, he did. 100%.
Yeah, that ball out to Leif Davis, wasn't it? You talk about the Sarmiento goal, the Broadhead goal was that ball out there. The Leif Davis goal was that ball out there. The Leif Davis goal at home to Leicester was that ball dropped onto him out there. He had a sort of great passing range, and picking that ball out to Leif Davis was definitely one of his skills. And popping up late goals, and like Rich said, that those real captain's goals where like that Leicester goal, we were on a tough run at that point and struggling through, and he grabs the game by scruff of the neck, does that. The MK game, nothing was happening in it, and he just all of a sudden just goes, wins the balls, drives forward, puts it in the back of the net, and jogs back to the halfway line. And those real moments when you need something from somebody, he was very often the one that did that.
Stuart Armstrong. Given the strong arm.
Adam
Armstrong, was it? Was he still on the pitch at that point? Joe, just quickly, we'll get everybody's favourite Morsy moments. I think we're just putting some of them up. Now, Joe, just quickly talk about the thinking behind going to Kuwait if that is the case? I know that there's business interests he's got. I know there's family interests and whatnot. What do you think there? And obviously, like you said, Joe, maybe the agreement with Mr. Ashton is you can go, but you need to go X thousand miles away from the EFL if you are going.
Yeah, well, I think there's been talk for the last summer, or maybe the last 2 summers, about him wanting to move to a sort of a Muslim country because of his strong religious beliefs. And I think it is a case that if you do want to follow the religion as closely as you can, you probably need to be in a country where it is the dominant religion of the country, effectively there. So that's how I've been in the UAE a couple of times, and it runs through the culture there. So in the same way that it can't in England, and because it's a secular country, effectively. So I imagine that's a sort of big driving force behind the move, looking to go to a country where it is that. And so I just don't think we could let him go. And I'd imagine he probably earns a bit too much to go to another EFL club, because I'd imagine he's on a real good whack of money on a
free transfer, Joe. Derby pushing the boat out, aren't they?
Yeah, but if Ipswich are going to want a fee, and he's going to want his wages matched, and then another year on top of that, there's no point in
PSR without parachute payments on that.
Yeah. There's no point getting another year's contract if you do this half in your money and just getting the same money over 2 years that you're going to get over one, is it? So
fair comment.
So he's going to look to do there. But yeah, so I guess the sort of the Emirates and out there are his only real options to go to. But yeah, I would have just liked to have seen him go to a team that's more regularly in the sort of AFC championships out there, rather than drop down to a level where your career's just going to dwindle out.
A few comments coming in there, Rich, that you popped up on the screen about the Bristol Rovers game, which we in podcast narrative land have down as absolute D-Day, because it was the bottom out for Kieran McKenna at Ipswich Town, wasn't it? And then that ridiculous... How many did we win on the trot after that? Was it 10?
Was it?
13. God, we were good, weren't we? I need to throw that at the Birmingham fans.
Should have got that tattooed on our arms, shouldn't we?
Yeah, there we go.
It was like 14 wins out of 15 after that, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it must have been 13 on the bounce. Was it 10 clean sheets, possibly? Chat, help me out. Come on.
Yeah, 10 clean sheets, including that one at Bristol Rovers.
Ridiculous. Oh, yeah, we can't really count Bristol. But anyway. But yeah, one thing that gets forgotten there, or I had until it got brought up in the comments there, is, a little bit of back and forth with the fan base as well. And I mean, Rich, you have these ideas that, footballers are paid by the fans, essentially. I mean, I know that's not true now with TV, but that you're beholden to the fans is probably a better word. And you never speak back to them and this, that, and the other. And they can say what the hell they like to you, but you can't say anything back. I have a view on that, but I'm asking you for yours, Richard. But I think sometimes it is right for the captain to speak to the fan base, and it can get heated. And you look at it now. His timing was bob on there, Morsy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and you can find I think we did a live post-match reaction from the Bristol Rovers game.
I might have hosted. It was horrible.
I'm pretty certain you two were involved in it, but I'm not
moaning, were we?
Not going to point any fingers, but
all of us wasn't moaning about VAR.
That was the first time I gave up on the top two.
I
did as well.
I think we all had kind of maybe thought this is just too much for us. And I mean, there were some bits and pieces in the Bristol Rovers game that weren't that bad, and the criticism was probably a little bit overblown, but it's the emotion of being just running away with it, and then Christmas and that New Year period just totally got away with us.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, just horrible after Christmas, weren't we? And yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I stand on players having an argument with, as long as it's constructive and not disrespectful. I think sometimes football fans forget that footballers are A, human beings, and B, trying their absolute hardest, and not things are not always going to go their way. So yeah, I kind of like it. Well, and in that situation, it worked out, didn't it? Because if we stalled from that point onwards, then his position might have actually been untenable, mightn't it? If it had got worse, can you? There's a Mick quote in there somewhere, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, and we've already mentioned Toto Nsiala having it out with the Ipswich fans, and we're, love Toto, but we're not doing a we never did a goodbye eulogy podcast to
good riddance.
Toto. Oh, dearie me. Those are the views of Joe Fairs, not the Blue Monday podcast, everybody. Good luck, Toto. Where is he now?
I don't know, but he's not.
Still find him.
Well, he's not keeping Luke Wolford out of the team
Fleetwood.
anymore.
I think he might be at Fleetwood.
It's getting spicy here in Fair's household, isn't it? Right, let's round this out, guys, and let's go to our favourite moments. I mean, I've got to go for that Watford one. There was a few special away ends, wasn't there? And I remember at the time I was at the game and I did a vlog after it, thinking this side, when they're in a game, and I've been so used to over the years, if there's a chance of Ipswich losing a tight game, they're going to lose it. That had been the thing over the previous decade. We didn't have a winning mentality. We had a bottler mentality. Like Richard said, we weren't nasty. And then all of a sudden under McKenna, at these 50-50 coin flip games, we're winning them, aren't we? And I think we went behind with a really crappy goal in the first half, didn't we? Playing out from the back, and Hurst equalised. And you kind of sat there going, well, Watford away, take a point, middle of a 3-game week. Toto's at Shrewsbury. Thank you. You can still find him. Take a point in the middle of a 3-game week. I think possibly did we even have Norwich at the weekend? I'm trying to remember the order. And then you were sat there, and I did say to myself, this team probably wins this game from here. And his job, as I said, Joe, was further back, near his own penalty area, starting the attacks. But I mean, it was a carve up from Watford, but for Morsy to get the goal, and I think we all remember him trying to be humble at the end and being pushed forward, to go and do the fist bump or greet the fans. And there were a few just special, nothing will beat the Barnsley one, I know, but just those moments, with the away stand. So it's got to be Watford for me, Joe. And I'm sorry if I've stolen anyone's thunder there by staying here. What is your favourite Sam Morsy moment, Joe?
Well, I'll go for my second favourite because you've taken my favourite already. But
I'm the host. I went first.
Yeah.
Do me.
Southampton away. That first away. No, we drawn at Brighton, hadn't we? And then you go to Southampton looking for that first win and thinking, oh look, we really need to find one from somewhere. And we were pretty poor in that game in the first half, especially. I thought Southampton were much better than us, but again, it's just that digging in and finding a way and just getting that. And it's a really, really good goal as well. I know it takes a deflection, but takes it there, takes the ball down well, and just sort of smash it into the top corner. And we nick a point in the Premier League when we still had hope of thinking we were going to get somewhere. But I said that's the big moments. I guess there's lots of little moments like his celebration when Jeremy Sarmiento scores, some of the big crunching tackles he's put in, and some of his cynical fouls that he's done, and then turning around and bollocking someone about that,
and then not getting booked.
And then walking a tightrope for 10 games on 9 bookings, and then I'd say having the first 5 bookings in the first 6 games of the season, and then realising he's got like 20 games to survive 4 on. But no, just so many good memories. Such a good leader for us, and just it's going to be. You sort of hate to lose a player like this, and it feels. I don't know. My viewpoint is it still feels unnecessary to be losing him, but we are where we are now.
And Richard, finish this off your favourite Sam Morsy moment.
I was actually going to mention the tightrope walking booking situation because we talked about that every single the live chat every single week. When does the amnesty come in? When does the cards reset? All that kind of stuff. We talked about that constantly. I remember us talking about that for maybe the Norwich away game. He's gonna miss it. He's gonna miss it, and he played that to a T, didn't he? So that was going to be up there. But I've mentioned it. The MK Dons guy is probably the Southampton guy had a bit of a deflection on it, didn't he? I think probably the sweetest strike was that MK away game.
Someone's mentioning that Rotherham one. I was at that game.
He
picked that in the top corner off the set play, didn't he?
Fair play. Yeah, we didn't win that game, so I've kind of forgotten a little bit about that one.
Bloody well should have.
I mean, 7,000 fans away at MK, and as Joe as you sort of said, it wasn't our best performance, but got the win, and that the momentum was growing, wasn't it? So thank you, Sam, for the memories, and all the very best.
Yeah, let's do this now because we'll find a way of getting this to Mr. Morsy. I want to see Egypt flags. I want to see blue hearts. I want to see thank you, Sam, in that chat. Richard, get as many of them on the screen as you possibly can. Fill that chat up. We think Sam Morsy will be on his way from Ipswich Town very, very shortly after an ungodly run. 165 games, double promotion winning captain. What a run, Mr. Morsy. We'll stick some of these up on the screen. Fill the chat as we go to a word from our show partners over at Atwells.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thanks to the wonderful people over at Atwells, and thank you to the wonderful people here in the live chat right now. We are talking Sam Morsy, who appears to be on his way out of Ipswich Town. We are celebrating the double promotion winning captain. Thank you as well to the wonderful people at One Stop Badges as well. You can go and grab your discount there by following the instructions in the description down there on YouTube, and go and check that out if you're listening on audio after the fact. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review if you're here on YouTube right now. Thumbs up, please. Keep those comments coming. Right, reflecting on an interesting weekend down at Portman Road with Ed Sheeran there for 3 nights, Joe. And we've had the announcement of the 2 players we spoke about this past weekend as well. Mazur Mutisiwa and Cedric Kipre are in the building now. But your reflections on the weekend?
Yeah, well, the Ed Sheeran concert was really good. I guess that was one last part of Sam Morsy's captain duties, because where I was on the pitch, you could see the director's box, and on the front row was Connor Chaplin and Leif Davis and Wes Burns and Darrow Shea. And then half an hour later, Sam Morsy comes down. Him, his wife, his daughter sit in the front row. Connor Chaplin, Wes Burns, Leif Davis moved back a row to let the captain into his front row seat. So that, I guess, with Darrow Shea on the front row as well, I guess that was one of his last perks of leadership, that he still could sit where he wanted to in the director's box for the concert. But I thought it was just a really good weekend in town, Ipswich as a town, as a football club. Everyone did themselves really proud. Great concerts. I went on Saturday with my wife. My wife took my son on the Sunday night, so we definitely were there a lot for it. Walked around the town. It was just so busy. The club shop was pumping out gear like there was no tomorrow. So I'd imagine it's been a good week.
Use a different turn of phrase for that, please, Joe.
Was selling a lot of stock.
Thank you. Again, the views of Joe Fairs.
But I'd imagine there's a lot of pink shirts sold now, so you can see why they've been left at full price for that. There's another Ed Sheeran Ipswich Town shirt that was announced that we spoke about briefly last week, but that was there. That seemed to fly off the shelves.
Unbelievable scenes.
Can I shout out Busted, by the way, Ben? I went Saturday night to see, and
really good.
Mostly because, well, obviously for Ed, but of all the support, I was excited about Busted.
Charlie from Woodbridge family?
Yeah, I think he bought shares like Craig did back in the day when they were doing that, when David Sheepshanks was doing that fundraising stuff. Banger after banger by Busted. Yeah. And then year 3000 at the end. I'm not saying it was the highlight, but it was up there. But
can I say, I hope Ipswich without Morsy aren't like Westlife without Mark Fahili. That's like Barcelona taking to the pitch without Messi there. That didn't particularly work for me. I think Ed should have taken Mark's vocals on that. But hopefully he will rejoin the Westlife fold. I didn't know we were going this way. Rich, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And just to reiterate what Joe said, I mean, Ed kind of gave a speech partway through about just pride in the town, pride in the county. And, you know, as someone who's lived away from Ipswich and Suffolk for a big chunk of my life and came back purposefully, a lot of that, resonated. And there was a real good kind of feeling around the whole place. And, it was, obviously Ed Sheeran just exceptionally talented. I think we forget how he basically held a 30,000 crowd 3 nights in a row single-handedly
with a guitar and a loop pedal. Insane, isn't it? Yeah.
And just everyone, just such a great atmosphere as well. It was really brilliant, and I'm really glad the club managed to get it done. The key now is get that grass growing, because we might be need a bit of rain. I think it's help us out.
Oh, it's coming. Don't you worry.
Could he have
about
run
that.
a paper merchant? So Ben,
there you go.
Probably what spurred him on, Joe.
Can I just say, I did actually support him as well. So I could literally do that that whole David Brent soliloquy, but I don't think I need to become more Brent. I think I do a fair good job of that already. Guys, we're moving as quickly as we can. Joe has to be the other side of Ipswich by 9 p.m. So we may not be able to take questions from you guys, because very selfishly, I've got about another 8 to ask Richard and Joe. We're going to hear about Cat 1 Academies, and then Paige Peak, and then Marcel Ruiz, and then Liam Delap, and hopefully we get to Axel Tuanzebe suing
Hayden
Manchester
Hackney
United as well, and Hayden Hackney. I'll add it.
Ali Al-Hamidi.
Joe, Cat 1 Academy. Was it you who asked Mark Ashton at the Q&A? Yeah,
at the very first fans forum. I asked that, and was quite shut down really on it. It was a bit like, no, we don't think. Almost like we don't believe in it. We don't think it's worth it, so it won't be happening. And now there's been it's almost a bit like Donald Trump talk and went, oh, this is what we've always wanted to do. And I think, is it really? Because there's probably evidence.
The best academy. We have all the best academies.
But no, it's great. It's great that we've got it there. I think there's probably a concern at maybe the level of quality of player we've got in the academy at the moment. That it might be a chastening couple of years whilst we try and move up to the level from sort of league, the sort of almost like a League One academy to a Premier League academy in that stage. So we're gonna have a tough couple of years of sort of seeing the fixture list for next season, and it's unrelenting sort of in the Premier League 2 South. But this is what we've got to do. This is part of what we need to be if we want to be a big, consistent, long-term Premier League club. This is part of it. With the 29th Category 1 academy in England, so there's more than there are just Premier League teams in that. So I think Birmingham and Burnley have also got Category 1 status this season. I think Birmingham returned to it. So yeah, it's going to be a tough couple of seasons, but it will mean that we start attracting better players, bring them in. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some quite aggressive recruitment over the next couple of years at sort of under 15, under 19.
That makes
level.
Me uncomfortable, Joe.
There's so much of it, Ben, at the moment.
I don't like it.
Since Brexit, there is so much because they can't recruit from abroad. It is just
they're effing children.
I know all the clubs are going after all the players. Like there's one, I think he just left Aston Villa to go to Man City, and everyone's like, "Oh, Man City's stealing all the best players." Well, Aston Villa had nicked him from Port Vale 2 years earlier, so
right,
yeah, the
age
same
4.
player. Yeah, he'd gone at 14 from Port Vale to Villa, and then at 16 from Villa to Man City. There's Man United trying to get a player from Man City and Fulham at the moment. England internationals. Yeah, it's really. It's really bad at the moment. It's not good. And it's a lot of it is post-Brexit because you can't bring EU citizens across to the 18 now. So that it's just a much smaller market. So it's a much more rabid market there now.
Joe Fair's managed to mention President Trump and Brexit in the same little answer there, Rich. That's tremendous work. Rich, Paige Peak's not going to Aston Villa.
No, thank goodness. No, made a return from Southampton and I'm delighted by this. We've been watching the women's team, obviously sponsored Abby Lafayette and recently Lucy O'Brien. But whenever Dave and I used to go back in the day when Paige Peak was just coming through, she was the standout player, just really classy central defender who takes a great penalty, a great set piece, scored 19 goals in like 50 appearances, and then left for Southampton. I'm trying to kind of come up with an analogy. It's like when we lost to Bolton in the playoffs or West Ham into the playoffs, and then someone, a centre back or a striker, went and signed for them when they got promoted. She left for Southampton, and it hurt a little bit. But she's got really great experience at WSL2 or Championship level. Comes back in at a great age of 22, and is the first signing of the summer. I think more business is needed, but provides real great physical presence. As I said, set piece threat, and actually behind the scenes. And Joe might be aware of this. I think she was working within the analytics team behind the scenes. And
yeah, I think
it's
she's quite a recruitment analyst. She was there.
It was quite well thought of, I think, even by kind of Kieran McKenna, I think. And I think we were quite sad to see her go there. We got a fee for her, but I wonder whether she ends up probably not going back to that, because hopefully they're going full time or at least semi-pro. So really great start, but yeah, a bit more business needed. But yeah, excited to have Paige Peake back, Ben.
I spent the whole time trying to do a gag about her training in the evening and you staying in and watching Peake practice, and I just couldn't put the whole thing together. And
you could have gone with her as a player and a recruitment analyst as Twin Peaks, maybe.
That's better.
Brilliant.
That's stronger. I try and avoid the term Twin Peaks when talking about females, though, Joe, because that will get me cancelled as well. We're really on the
out loud, guys. You're saying it out loud.
On the razor's edge tonight, aren't we, Joe? Is Marcel Ruiz on the razor's edge of joining Ipswich Town? And who the hell is he?
Well, he was noted in the media as the Mexican Jude Bellingham. So we've signed a Dutch N'Golo Kante at the weekend, and we're looking to get the Mexican Jude Bellingham to go with him.
Suggesting the media are full of hot air, Joe?
No, I think it's a fair description from the limited YouTube and highlight clips I've seen of him. But no, he looks a really, really good player. I think he's the star man for Toluca, who are the current Mexican champions of they do funny league like Clausura and Apertura. So they have like 2 half seasons.
Apertura.
Yes, they've just won the last one, and he's a midfielder that gets up the pitch, scores goals, assists goals. He played for Mexico in the Gold Cup and set up a goal for Raul Jimenez in the final there. I'm pretty sure Ipswich had some representation at the Gold Cup final, so that might be who we were looking at, or amongst others spotted him. But no, that was sort of his first time in the national team, I think, and he had a really, really good tournament. There's been a lot of talk of a fee of about $10 million. I think today there's Borussia Mönchengladbach and Nice have also been linked, but I think the Mexican press is reporting.
How old is he, Joe?
25, I think he is. So I think the Mexican press is reporting that we're the only actual hard offer on the table. They've got a game 4 a.m. Thursday morning, so look, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So, well, just seeing if he's in the team for that, because they played their first game of the season on Saturday, scored a good goal, had a lovely little just backheeled assist for it, which we had sort of clipped up in the Telegram group Sunday morning, as it never sleeps in there. And so we had that, some really good little highlights from him, and he looks a real player. And I say, hope if he's not in that team Thursday, then it might be that he's on his way across to Europe to see, I guess, for us to make our pitch to him. Or I don't think we'll be the only team trying to make a pitch for him. But yeah, it's a really, really exciting bit of news.
I love this one from Lewis, Rich. I know you shouldn't judge from highlight reels, but Ruse, we all do it, don't we? We all get.
We were watching Matasiwa's highlight reel earlier.
Oh, Ballon d'Or winner on the basis.
They sort of say never fall in love with a lone player, but I think the next level of that is never fall in love with a player you're linked with just because they're YouTube highlight reel.
30 seconds of amazingness. Yeah. Rich, do you want to talk about Hayden Hackney or Amari Hutchinson?
Mario, I don't really know anything about Hayden Hackney. I'd be shocked if he comes to Ipswich. I'd be surprised, but I see we're linked with him. I think Phil TWTD has kind of got a story out about that this evening, but I'd be shocked because I heard Premier League links there. But the Amari Hutchinson thing is an interesting one. Our mate Fabrizio Romano was talking about that last night, although I think he was doing that secondhand, if I'm honest. But I think Brentford.
You mean he doesn't run his own Twitter?
No, as in that may or may not have come from him. I don't know. I thought I saw it somewhere else first, but anyway, I think there's now a rivalry between him and David Ornstein. So that's like,
it's not a rivalry. One of them's a proper journalist. The other one just pumps out stuff on behalf of agents and clubs.
Bears is going out swinging today.
Bears knows that he's off to the other side of Ipswich.
He can run away, and
he's going to be well clear. We're going to have to clear up the mess.
He's going to turn his phone off for 24 hours. He'll be laughing. Fabrizio will be on you. But yeah, I think we put the shutters up for Brentford for McKenna. It feels like they're getting revenge coming back for Amari Hutchinson. There's supposedly a release clause that times out at 5 p.m. So I guess what we were speculating before we came on air is whether you can kind of say, well, we plan to meet that release clause. We just need to formalize it, or whether it is totally gone at 5 p.m. if indeed it exists or whatever. But no surprises being linked with teams, and maybe the release clause means we can push a little bit harder for a better deal. Who knows? But I'd be shocked if he's here 1st of September. But I would, as we were saying last week, cheat code if we get him, if we keep him. Sorry.
Do you think there's going to be any Premier League? I mean, I'm not an agent or a sports lawyer, Joe. Can you put a frivolous bid in just to have met the clause in case you want to sign him and then kick the can down the road?
I think we'd know. I think the fact that Fabrizio Romano's now trying to get him sold, I think we'd know if there was any movement on this deal, because we're going to be getting updates like there's no tomorrow on this. So we'll see. But I think the thing is with Amari, he cost us £22 million last summer. So whilst people are saying 35 million is too much, well, we've paid 22 for him.
That's a better clause than Delap's, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and
Well, there'll be a chunk
but then we only
Chelsea,
paid 15 for Delap, so percentage-wise, Delap's was double what we paid, where Amari's is only sort of another 65% on what we paid for him. So I say the fee's going to need to be up somewhere near there, and Amari might not be happy about that, and he might not. I'm sure he's too professional to sulk, but he might just have to get his head down for this year and get on with it and help get us back up, and then see what that brings.
Isn't he?
Yeah, see Arnaut Danjuma at Bournemouth and Emi Buendia at Norwich, or
Willie Nonto,
or Ruter or Somerville or whoever. Yeah. So, have you got anything more on Hackney, Joe? You've always said through the summer that you thought, we'll be happy days if that one happens. But it was said, Colin in the chat saying, apparently no Premier League interest in him. So if Borough want to cash in, do they need to cash in? Borough just sold Josh Coburn for $5 million, and they sold Latte Lath in January. So
yeah, I think he's only got 2 years left on his contract. So you're getting into that stage where you need to probably be realising a fee for him. But it's funny because it's sort of another chat, and there was talk in that, and it was saying how there's loads more Premier League interest. And I said, yeah, but we got this story last week that Everton, Brentford, West Ham, Newcastle, Forest and Eintracht Frankfurt and this are all interested in him. But no one's putting a bid in. Ipswich have got an actual bid in for him. And why is no one else done it? And there's a Sunderland fan in there who said, it reminded me of Jack Clark last year, where there was all this talk of all these teams interested in him, but no one ever put a bid in for him. Then we sold him to Ipswich, and everyone was a bit disappointed, A, at where he went, and B, that the money we got for him. Then they had a look on Transfermarkt, and they share the same agent, Jack Clark and Hayden Hackney. So is it that they felt that there was so much interest in him because their agent's good at getting the story out there about, they're interested, but there's not actually anything coming to fruition for it. So maybe it's that. And like I say, I think Middlesbrough still, I think they're one of only 3 championship clubs to do any business. The other 2 being Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester, one are under an embargo, who are just a basket case with appointed a manager today. So they're the only championship club that haven't done any business yet, who are probably in a position where they are able to. And they've probably got quite a lot to do. So if we've got some money sitting there on the table for them, which from what I gather has been, that deal's been sitting there from before the Euros and no one else is bidding on it yet. Well, yeah, maybe it does happen. And if it does, brilliant. So I think it's been an ambitious target, but we wouldn't be pursuing it for as long as we have been if we didn't have any indication that we might get it done.
Richard, would you like to talk about Liam Delap winning the World Club Championships or Axel Tuanzebe suing Manchester United for clinical negligence?
You talk about Donald Trump again?
No.
That's a bit, yeah, situation's a bit...
Can we never mention politics or him ever, please?
I thought that was going to bundle him over on the stage at one point.
Funny. Yeah. Well done, Liam Delap. I again, a bit of sadness seeing him in the coach celebrating that win at the end, and kind of like he's moved on so quick, hasn't he? But no, fair play. And I guess the question for him is, João Pedro's come in and looked pretty fearsome, hasn't he? And is he going to play? I mean, that's...
But I think one of the things that's good with Delap is that he's actually I know he started most games, but when he comes off the bench, he is a real difference maker as a sub.
Yeah.
And I know that might not be what he wants at Chelsea in the first sort of going forwards, but even in this one, he came on, bundled his way through, took a brilliant shot that Donnarumma just plucked out the top corner, and then 5 minutes later, bundled over Marquinhos, Brazilian international, PSG defender, one of the best defenders in the world, just bundled him out the way, got through on goal, and but for a sort of Donnarumma's big toe would have scored there. He was a real impact sub, and I think he's going to be a brilliant signing for them.
Richard, let's finish this off. You mentioned one of our parachute rivals, Leicester, who I think Joe's just called a basket case, have now announced that Marti Cifuentes is going to be their manager. Do you agree with the betting market that it's kind of going Ipswich, Southampton, Birmingham, Sheffield United, and Leicester less of a threat given the potential problems and chaos with the tight ownership there?
Just quickly on that, sorry. Rob Dorset on Sky tonight says he predicts or thinks or has heard, I don't know what's there, but
he's good for Leicester if this is about Leicester.
Yeah, that Leicester will be getting a 9-point deduction is what Rob
I was
Dorset
going to
said.
mention the point deduction is going to be the bigger factor there, Ben, but it does feel a strange one. You know, if we'd appoint Cifuentes, I'm not sure we'd be too excited. And I think he had, he did well at QPR, stabilised him and had a really good season last year, didn't he? But Leicester should be an aspiring Premier League team again, parachute money, but off-field situation there. I think the issue for Leicester, Ben, is time. It's the 15th of July. He's only just come in. So I assume he's not going to have any stamp on the recruitment. I don't know if they've done any business yet, have they? Or have they done a few bits?
No.
So it's a race against time for them. And then you add the 9-point deduction. I just don't think you can afford to stand still in the Championship. But look at Norwich. I mean, I'd have Norwich as a better bet for me at the moment than Leicester, as much as that hurts. There's always a surprise team. Coventry might have their year finally. I totally agree with you. I think Leicester, points deduction or not, I think are probably certainly the three relegated teams will be the weakest, and it's going to be a really interesting situation there post Vardy. How they go.
I don't know if it happened or not, but there was talk that Cifuentes was having to pay his own compensation.
QPR
Leicester couldn't afford to pay.
Played that quite well, actually. So he agitated for West Brom. Allegedly, and then was put on gardening leave afterwards, which meant QPR could still get compensation while he's on the gardening leave wherever he goes anywhere else. And Leicester apparently didn't want to pay it, and to get him over the line, he's either foregoing it or I think there's some weird stipulation. I think you're right, Joe, that it has to come from another club or a federation, so they can't just not pay it. Do you know what I mean? It has to go through the books. But
they've already had a pre-season friendly, which is bizarre when you think about it.
Who Leicester have?
Yeah, they had a pre-season friendly last weekend. And because it's the 15th of July, the season kicks off in 3 weeks' time, and you can't wait around. But a manager, he's going to have to come in and maybe be a continuation of what Van Nistelrooy was doing, because otherwise, if you're going to scrap that and start from scratch, then the season's gone, isn't it? It's a write-off, and maybe they come good towards the end of the season and he gets some clicking and he has a couple of windows and brings some players in. But I think you basically say goodbye to the Premier League ambitions if you're not going to try and have some continuity there. So it's going to be fascinating.
If they appeal that, Joe, down to 6 points and they don't get a fee restriction or a soft transfer embargo, I'd take that if I were a Leicester fan. It's the embargo that would be more damaging.
They still do have a good squad, don't they?
They
still beat us
Yeah.
last year on the last day of the season, didn't they? So,
well, and look, you mentioned Harry Clarke being loaned to Sheffield United and getting 92 points. Well, where did Harry Souttar and Hamza Chowdhury go? They were there as well, right at the top of the Championship, and they'll all be back in there, won't they? I do think is he Moroccan? El Kanous? I think he doesn't stay. He's a cheat code, isn't he? But otherwise, right. Thank you so much, everybody. We've got to get Joe Fairs away before he.
I've got plenty of time, don't worry.
Before he libels someone.
Before he upsets any other group. But this isn't about upsetting anybody. This show is about Mr. Sam Morsy, who we think is on the way out of Ipswich Town. So from me, if it goes into the universe or he hears it, thank you, Sam Morsy, for everything you did. And thank you for being the leader of 2 absolutely magical years. Joe, your last word on Sam?
Yes, same moments. Me and my family, my children will never forget when I told my son he was leaving. He said, "Who to?" Because I'll have to support them instead. So that's how much he thinks of Sam Morsy.
Brilliant. Richard, last word.
Yeah, if we don't get the chance to do it kind of in the stadium, which I guess that's it now. We didn't know in the West Ham game, then I totally endorse your words, Ben. Hopefully Sam feels the appreciation from the fan base. It's always really, we've had a few interviews with players where you just want to say thank you, like for these moments, the last few years have just been exceptional, and he's been front and center for that, so critical for it, and goes with our absolute best wishes, isn't he?
There you go. Thank you, Sam Morsy. What a run. What a captain. We'll see you down the road. Thank you everyone for watching.